Hello and welcome to your Lettings Finance training. This video will be covering reconciliation. That will include manually reconciling Expert Agent against your bank account, your bank reconciliation report, your ALA report, and locking your financial transactions. Jumping over into Expert Agent, we'll start off by looking at how to manually reconcile your transactions within the system. We recommend that you reconcile Expert Agent against your bank account on at least a monthly basis, just to ensure that everything that you've posted is accurate in terms of what's gone through the bank. This will help you ensure that you haven't missed any receipts that have come into the bank on Expert Agent, and also that the payments that you've recorded as going out and coming in are correct. It will also help you pick up any errors in your posting in the period that they've happened, rather than having to go back and correct them later down the line, should you need to provide your accounts to HMRC or somebody like that for a review. So when you get to the end of the month and you finish posting everything into Expert Agent and through the bank, you'll want to start off by manually reconciling, which you're going to do by coming to your top finance menu and coming to the accounts submenu and going to manual reconciliation. You'll start off by entering the month in question in the to and from date range at the top. You'll probably start with your client account, but you've got the option to reconcile all of your accounts. So maybe you're starting with client and then moving on to deposit and clicking search. Expert Agent will load, and it will load for you every transaction that you have recorded that has gone through the bank within the period in question. So for me, every transaction that's been posted for the month of April will be showing in this list. You'll have the description, you'll have the record that's been posted against, you'll have the debit amount, so what's come into the bank account, and you'll have the credit amount, what's gone out of the bank account. You'll have the method of that payment or that receipt, and you'll have a reference should you have provided one. You can order this report by any of these columns. It will be defaulted to date, but if you'd rather do that by amount, you can do just by using the up and downward facing arrows alongside each column there. At the top of the screen, you'll have a reconcile balance to date, so that will record as of today's date what the total reconcile balance is at the moment. And the theory behind what you'll do is that you'll get your bank statement and you'll just work down your bank statement, cross-referencing what's on your bank statement against what's on the screen. As something appears on your bank statement, you will find it on Expert Agent and you will tick it off. You'll notice as I'm ticking these transactions off here, the reconcile balance at the top is adjusting accordingly. So that in theory, the running total alongside your bank statement, if you have one, should match with that balance as you're ticking to reconcile off the transactions. So work through reconciling everything off. Once you're happy that you've ticked everything that matches between your bank statement and Expert Agent, you're going to tick manually reconcile selected entries in the top right hand corner. Expert Agent will ask you if you're sure you want to reconcile these entries, so please make sure you're only ticking the entries that match with your bank statement and select yes, and you'll get a pop-up confirming that those transactions will have been successfully reconciled. Any transactions that you couldn't reconcile because they weren't correct, maybe they were the incorrect amount in Expert Agent, you'll need to go back into that particular record and correct that transaction. Any transactions that you couldn't mark off because they were showing on Expert Agent but weren't on your bank statement will need cancelling in Expert Agent because they haven't actually happened. Anything that was showing on your bank statement that's not showing on Expert Agent will need to be posted into the system to allow it to be reconciled. You should be able to get to a point at the end of the month where you've been able to reconcile everything off of the system, aside from maybe a few payments that haven't yet cleared, but it should be a minimal amount. Everything else you should be able to reconcile, and that manual reconciliation screen should be pretty much empty. Once you've manually reconciled, there are a couple of reports that you will want to run at the end of each month. These reports are reports that you can hold on to within the office, and the reports that your bookkeeper, your accountant, ALA, HMRC will be interested in terms of what's gone through your client account, and those are the bank reconciliation report and also the ALA report. You'll access them both by the top finance menu and the reporting submenu. Bank reconciliation is the second from bottom there. You'll run this report on a bank account by bank account basis, so we'll start with the client account. You'll enter the date range that you've just reconciled, and you'll always tick to include the balance brought forward. What that will mean is if there are any balances prior to April that are affecting the current balance in my bank, those balances will be included in this report to allow me to reconcile expert agent against my bank account. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click Report. And expert agent will load for me a bank reconciliation report for the month of April. It will start with all the debits, so all the receipts that have come into the bank account for the month. And it will follow with the credits or the payments that I've recorded as going out of the bank for the month. And these will be in date order, starting with the start of the month and running through to the end. Each transaction will show the date, who it was posted by, and a description. It will include a reference if you've included one in your transaction, the amount and the record it relates to. It will also show you whether that transaction has been reconciled or not. So hopefully most of your transactions at this point will be showing as yes, but any that you haven't been able to reconcile for whatever reason will show as no there. Right at the bottom of this report, you'll have some really useful totals. You'll have a debits total. So this will be the total of the debits for the period in question. And you'll see a breakdown of what's been reconciled and what's still unreconciled. You'll have a total for the credits for the period in question, again with a breakdown of what's reconciled and what's still to be reconciled. And then you'll have some total balances. So you'll have the period balance, which will be the period debits less the period credits. And again, a breakdown of what's reconciled and unreconciled with that. You'll have a brought forward balance. So that's anything that's carrying forward into April that is still in the bank account, with again a reconciled and unreconciled breakdown. And then the final column on the right hand side, the to date column, this is the important column. This is the column that should match up with your bank account, your total balance, and then a breakdown of what's reconciled and what's unreconciled there. Once you've been through and reconciled everything for the month, hopefully your total balance and your reconciled balance will be pretty much the same, with maybe a few items sat there in the unreconciled as the items that still haven't cleared. But you should be able to match this total balance, this reconciled balance, to the balance on your bank statement to confirm that the two match and everything reconciles. Once you've run this report and you're happy with it, you'll probably want to print it off or export it to a CSV and keep hold of it along with the bank statement as proof that everything you've posted is correct. The second report that you might want to have a look at is the ALA report. Again, accessed via the top finance menu, reporting and ALA report. You'll run this report and this report will run for all of your client bank accounts. You'll pop your date in and you'll click report. And the ALA report will load for you. So what your ALA report is looking at is it's looking at a breakdown of the balance in your client bank accounts as of the date you've run the report to. So for me, as of the 30th of April, the balance in my client bank account is at the bottom here. And the report will show me a breakdown of that balance on a client by client basis. So of that £36,000, whose money is that? Who does that money belong to? And that breakdown will consist of deposits. So any deposits that you've received that are still within the client account will show there. Any landlords who have balances will show here. So these are landlords with balances either available to pay or balances retained on their accounts. Any tax that you've deducted for a non-resident landlord that you haven't yet paid over to HMRC will show on here. Any tenants who have balances in hand, maybe they've overpaid, maybe they've paid an initial balance up front and you're still yet to pay that to the landlord, will show on here. If you have any contractors who are owed money because you've deducted those monies from landlords but haven't yet paid the contractors, they'll show on here. And equally, if you've got any agency money, so you've charged sales invoices and you've deducted those monies from the landlord, but you haven't yet done an agency transfer, the agency will appear on here as well. So it's a really useful report to show exactly what that balance is made up of and whose money that is. Again, you can print that report out or you can export it to a CSV and keep hold of that alongside your bank reconciliation and your bank statement. The balance on your ALA report should match with the total balance on your bank reconciliation report and also match with your bank statement to give you your three-way reconciliation. The final bit to look at in this video is locking your financial transactions. In Expert Agent, you get the option to lock your financial transactions at the end of a period if you so wish. Locking your financial transactions will mean that no one can post anything prior to that date or cancel anything that's been posted prior to that date. So it's a useful thing to do at maybe year end. And the way you can do that is via your top tools menu and into configuration, into lettings configuration in the bottom right hand corner, and you've got lock financial records. You will pop in here the date that you want to lock and then save. And your transactions will be locked prior to that point, so no edits will be able to be made of accounts that you've submitted. That's a basic reconciliation within Expert Agent. And just to reiterate, is something that we recommend you do on at least a monthly basis to confirm that everything you're posting is correct and to allow you to pick up any errors in real time. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.